and welcome to Michigan Matters. Hope you're enjoying the holiday weekend. We're going to slow things down a bit as we talk about AI, artificial intelligence, which is gaining ground in the classroom and workplace at lightning speed. What does it mean to you and your family? We have three leaders at the forefront with us to talk about it and put it in perspective. Then the roundtable's here to talk about politics, civility in politics, and the road ahead. It's a show about AI, civility, and politics. Let's get started.
From CBS Detroit, this is Michigan Matters with Karl Kane. Michigan Matters is brought to you in part by Cure Auto Insurance.
And we're so pleased to welcome Dr. Tarek, Sobh, who's president of Lawrence Tech University, Jennifer Lewellyn, the director of Oakland County Michigan Works, and Karl Daubmann, who was the provost at LTU. Good morning. Great to have you guys with us.
Good morning.
There's so much to talk about when we talk about AI, but before we dive in, President Sobh, since you and I were together last on the show, Governor Whitmer appointed you to the board of the Michigan Education Trust, where you represent private colleges. You also took over as president of the very prestigious Association of Independent Technology Universities, which includes LTU and MIT. Congrats.
Thank you. It's an honor, for both things.
Well, your resume is growing here by leaps and bounds here. Well, speaking of growing and things changing, let's talk about AI. You're president of LTU. Technology is its background. Your view of AI, is it something to be embraced? And you understand there's a lot of people who fear it. So how do you view it?
I don't think it should be feared. This is very, very exciting time, really. Again, this is not incredibly much more different when computers were invented or the internet, came on board, or even when the calculator started being used in high schools. But of course, the implications are magnificent, in my opinion. AI is not going to be a displacing job, which is, I think, the fear of many people, in industry and otherwise. AI is going to be increasing efficiency. It's going to make life easier. It's going to increase productivity. It's going to enable us to produce 10 times, what we were producing before. Yeah. It's going to make things safer. So AI is not only to be embraced, it's to be utilized towards incredible efficiency, safety, and many other aspects of life. So,
and Karl, you're the provost at LTU. How do you complement work with the president? What does the provost do?
You were going to start with a hard question.
That's it. Next, we'll get your thing on what we should do about the Middle East peace process.
Right. No, it's an exciting time. I think we're looking at AI from a creative perspective, right? I'm trained as an architect, and so we've been embracing that from the beginning. How do we think about new designs? How do we look at those things? But I'm also excited from the provost perspective. How do we think about the future of education? And also, how do we think about the future of a university? And how do we use AI to think about the connection between all of these things from an HR perspective, and how do we hire, and how do we identify adjuncts, and how do we work with our alumni, and how does that impact the
it seems like it's changing so quickly here. And Jennifer, you work at Oakland County Michigan Works, which is sort of like economic development and helping retrain, right?
Yes. Michigan Works is the main organization in the state of Michigan that provides workforce development services to both businesses and job seekers.
Right.
So this is a really unique time to...
You're kind of like also the conduit between academia and businesses, right?
Absolutely.
And right now with AI and where it is in its evolution/revolution, your thoughts?
So it's an interesting time for businesses, particularly small businesses, who are trying to wrap their head around, what does this mean for my customers? What does this mean for my employees? What does this mean for my organizations? They're navigating policy. They're trying to determine how do they protect their proprietary information safely, and what does it mean for the skills of the workers, of their existing workers, but also their future employees.
Yeah. President Sobh, LTU has 5 colleges. Yes. Certainly technology is a big part, engineering, architecture,
health sciences, and arts and sciences.
And arts and sciences. Okay. So AI crosses into all of those. How revolutionary is it in terms of programs and how you're teaching in the classroom kind of things?
So we really never think of AI as a standalone program or a standalone, degree, for example. AI is literally embedded in everything that we do. If we're talking about, for example, the College of Business, within every single discipline with that college, whether it's analytics or cybersecurity or project management or accounting, we embed the usage of AI in the curriculum so students can graduate with these type of skills that enables them to be much more productive and technology oriented upon graduation. Even in health sciences, we train our students on the usage of AI to decipher MRIs and CAT scans and X-rays and do automatic diagnosis. Even guiding robotic surgery and robotic surgery devices, for example.
Yeah.
So, and of course, as I'm sure Karl would say, our College of Architecture has embraced AI for probably more than 10 years, I would imagine, or close to 10 years, using AI to help with the design of buildings and using AI.
It's pretty much everywhere. In fact,
it's incredible. And actually, in our case, we're kind of lucky because, as you know, AI became quote-unquote mainstream maybe 3-4 years ago.
Yeah.
In our case, we've been working on defining algorithms for AI and embedding it in the curriculum and in our research endeavors forever as a technological university of eminence.
And I know there's a lot more, too, that we're going to be talking about here. But you know what? We need to take a quick break here. We'll be back with more Michigan Matters after this timeout. Welcome back to Michigan Matters. We're talking with Dr. Tarek Sobh, who's president of Lawrence Tech University, Jennifer Lewellyn of Oakland County Michigan Works, and Karl Daubmann, Provost at LTU. Talking about AI, something we all need to know more about. And Jennifer, you and I were just talking offline here before we started this about AI and how it's massively changed things. And you had a quick story about your parents or your grandparents.
Yeah, my parents. We entered into a conversation about what is AI, and they were a little overwhelmed by it, a little scared by it, and they're in the process of redoing their kitchen. And so I said, I'm going to show you quickly what AI is. I took a photo of their kitchen, said, Mom, what's your vision? She said, modern farmhouse, white cabinets, stainless steel appliances, maybe some green cabinets. Typed it into ChatGPT, uploaded the photo. Within 3 minutes, we had a beautifully designed new kitchen.
That's the positive upside of it. But we keep hearing here, Karl, about jobs being lost and things because, as President Sobh was pointing out, being done quicker, you're making things and manufacturing things and robotics and everything like that, that jobs are going to be lost. So if I were to say to you, someone watching this, they're a parent, they're a grandparent, a neighbor of a young person looking to the future, what 2 or 3 fields would you say these are going to be probably pretty bulletproof going forward?
I think we're seeing all of the jobs changing. And so I think while there are efficiencies that we talk about, there's going to be new jobs created.
Yeah, can you, or can we not talk about what's new because we don't know what's new yet?
It's changing so quickly. And so I think that's something that we're seeing. Students that graduated just a couple years ago were outside of AI, and they're coming back to learn that. And I think we're also seeing new, from an employer's perspective, we're seeing as new people enter the job market, those tools they bring, I think, are also shifting what's happening.
How is that impacting how what in the classroom and getting young people prepared so when they leave LTU, and we know almost all your graduates have jobs when they leave and no college debt and all that other stuff here. How are they fitting in with this AI picture and their understanding and embracing of it?
We're very well positioned. But again, as I always say, we're training our students for job titles that don't even exist. And we also realize that 70% of the content that we are dispensing in the classroom is probably going to be obsolete a year down the line after they leave LTU. So our emphasis is always on the skills, making sure that they are skilled in the usage of AI so they can learn on their own after graduation, new applications and new venues in which they can apply these AI skills, whether it's programming skill, whether it's skills within the area of automation, whether it's skills in the area of autonomous systems or robotics. I call it the AAA. That's what's changing really the world. Artificial intelligence, autonomous systems and autonomy, and automation. These are the 3 skills that we emphasize in every curriculum, in every degree program, in every college.
Is there still a need for, with what's being done and the revolution taking place in the classroom right now, is there a need for a college degree, or is trade school a better option or a more efficient option?
I think the line is thinning between these quote-unquote options. There is a need for skills. Skills can be dispensed via degrees. They can be dispensed via micro-credentials. They can be dispensed via boot camps. They can be dispensed via technology-infused trade school programming. And the important thing is having seamless pathways between these options so people can keep upgrading their skills from one to the other as they progress in their career. And we try to provide that.
Can I add one
Sure,
thing to that too, though? Is that being human is still important. And so those people that are afraid of
Thank you,
AI,
Jesus, for that.
and so
We're all going to be obsolete
a
here.
college degree, it's
Yeah.
also those soft skills. How do you interact in a classroom?
Yep.
How do you interact with a faculty member? How do you socialize with one another? And this is one of the things that we see under threat these days. Those people that are going to succeed in the job market are those that have human
I'm going to bring Jennifer real quickly here. So when it comes to employers, what you're hearing from them, and I know you have, one of the things you do is you help maybe mid-level people who have been displaced from whatever reason here get retrained. What is the one or two skills they need to learn to be able to become job ready in the future?
AI skills and interpersonal skills. To Karl's
What does
point,
that mean? What does that mean?
The implementation of AI is still going to require a human element. And our businesses over and over continue to talk about the soft skills, problem-solving skills, the ability to show up on time, show up every day, right? Those are our key pieces, and now you're adding AI on top of that as well. So this is where Lawrence Tech and Oakland County work so well together, along with Oakland University and Oakland Community College. It's not just about the curriculum and the education. We have an Oakland 80 initiative to achieve 80% of Oakland County residents to earn a certificate, degree, or credential by 2030.
And President Sobh, you get the last word here. You got about 30 seconds. What else about this would you want someone at home who is just getting up to speed on it to know about it all?
There is nothing to be afraid of. AI is to be embraced. Jennifer called the skills that should complement AI soft skills. They are actually professional skills, right?
I agree, yes.
And they are, as Karl mentioned, incredibly important in addition to the technological skills, whether it's team leading skill, presentation skills, analytical skills, writing skills, leadership skills, and such. In a place like Lawrence Tech, and where we hope to see higher education and education in general going, there should be incredible emphasis on theory and practice, getting people to actually work and do things while they're studying, in addition to professional education, interdisciplinarity, and technology.
And one or two classes you have that specializes in AI. What are the classes, just real quick?
I mean, we have programs in AI, but we're seeing the infusion. We've embraced it. We're a technological university.
So through all the classes.
We're seeing it through all of the classes.
There we go.
Freshman level to graduate level.
Fascinating conversation, and it sounds like something that you need to just continually keep learning here.
Yep.
Thank you so much for being here. Appreciate it. We'll regroup later, talk about this again. This is just an interesting, riveting conversation. All right. And keep it right here, and we're going to be having the roundtable back to talk about politics. We're going to ask about AI there, too, in those ads. Keep it right here. We're back, and so is the roundtable as we say hello to Tanya Shootmaker, who's co-director of MSU's Michigan Political Leadership Program. In the middle, where he likes to be, is Mark Hackle, Macomb County Executive, and State Representative Jason Hoskins making his debut with us. It's great to have you guys all here.
Great to be with you.
Yes, hopefully, I'm glad you're here when there's so much going on around the state, the region, the nation, the world here. And we're going to be talking about something that connects all three of you, and that is the MPLP program. And you are both graduates of alums, as they're called, of the program here. Yeah. You graduated what year from it?
2016.
2016. And Mark, do you remember the year?
You had to remind me off camera. It was 1993. I
Oh,
didn't
wow.
even remember this how long ago it was.
Wow. And Tanya, you are co-director of the program.
I'm a co-director with Rudy Habs.
Rudy, there, and for better or for worse, it's about politics, it's about civility, it's about governance. And why is the MPLP program so important?
Well, I think it's very important because tomorrow's leaders are going through the program today. And so our program teaches leadership skills. It teaches a very good balance between public policy and politics, the nuts and bolts about running for office.
What and I'm going to be emceeing the upcoming annual event that you have. It's April 28th, I think it is.
April 29th.
29th, yeah. And Robert Costa, CBS News, is going to be the headliner there. We'll be doing a fireside chat. One of the things alums have told me going through the program, how important it is to meet people from both sides of the aisle. In other words, if they typically have 24 fellows, half from Republicans, half from Democrats, but spending time and getting to meet people from both sides of the ideology, how important that whole is.
It really is. Life is all about relationships, and so, at the beginning, people wonder, I don't have anything in common, but then you form lifelong friendships.
Yeah.
And I was just talking to Representative Hoskins, and he has some very good friends, and right now we have 4 legislators serving from his class alone, 2 Republicans and 2 Democrats, and he's very close with them.
Well, am I correct in remembering my statistics that there's over 600 people who have worked in politics, are in politics, or governmental affairs type jobs and so forth around?
Yes, I believe we have 700, over 700. It's probably around 800 now, and over half of those have served in public office or are serving.
Well, certainly it's something that's much needed here. Well, let's move on to a couple things that have recently come up here. And Mark, I saw you in the audience at Mary Sheffield's first State of the City speech that she gave. You were there with the other 2 county execs, Dave Coulter, Warren Evans. Your thoughts about her first, not necessarily the speech, but the first 100 days almost that she has been there?
Yeah, I'm going to tell you, she hit the ground running. I'm going to give her a lot of credit. She really is trying to figure out how does she organize to deal with what's happening in the neighborhoods. And she's trying to work with, obviously, the business sector. But make no mistake about it, she really cares about the neighborhoods and trying to figure out how does she revitalize that and bring the city back. And again, you can tell she's very comfortable being on stage, being in the presence of whether it's the business side or people within the community. She's got a good grasp of the issues, having been on city council. And I think there's a lot to be watched what's going to be happening with Detroit under her leadership.
You almost were in the same situation. When you became Macomb's first county executive, you had been sheriff, which is a totally different thing. But stepping into the county executive role is a huge learning curve, right?
Well, and there was no path forward. In other words, we didn't know what that meant. In other words, we had a new charter. You had to figure out how do you design, the executive role, because a lot of the functions were responsibilities of the legislative body. So with that, the big tug of war was the legislative body still wanted those responsibilities. It's still somewhat of a challenge, but I think they've come to the realization there is a distinct difference between the executive and legislative branch. We work together. It has taken a while, but something that I was comfortable trying to figure out how do we get there by putting politics aside and focusing on the various issues.
And Representative Hoskins, you're obviously dealing up in Lansing, and your view of working together on both sides of the aisle. We hear about Lansing, how things aren't getting done, and there's lots of butting of heads over things, and people getting entrenched. I'm a Republican, therefore this. I'm a Democrat, therefore that. How do you see the environment that you're operating in?
I've always felt that working on both sides is imperative, especially now given the dynamics of Lansing, where there's a Republican House, a Democratic Senate, and a Democratic governor. We have to work together to get the important things done for the residents of the state of Michigan. So I've always tried to work on both sides of the aisle ever since I've started in the legislature, and so far, so good.
Has it become more combative since you've been there?
I don't know if I'd say it's more combative, but there is definitely, with the new dynamic in Lansing, sometimes it is a little bit more, we're having more passionate discussions about policy, but I still think there's paths to get a lot of great things done for the state.
And I know we've got more to talk about here, but we're going to take a quick break and continue the conversation. Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Michigan Matters. We're talking with Tanya Shootmaker, Mark Hackel, and Representative Hoskins. And this is a red-hot election year that we're in. The primary's coming up in August. We know the Senate, the governor, we're having debates being held here. Do you think, are people paying attention right now to elections at this stage of the game?
I don't think so, but I think the concerns that they have, they were paying attention to those. And we're hearing a lot from all of our constituents about the issues that they're having.
Mark, how do you see it?
I would agree. The people are tuned out to it. They want to know what's going to be happening to the economy. They want to know what they can do with the infrastructure. Some mental health issues, but they're not tuned in like politicians are tuned into elections right now.
So Tanya, we know we're hearing a lot about public getting involved, the No Kings rallies, et cetera, et cetera. With everything going on here, who do you think the electorate is pointing to as to blame for what's taking place here? Is it the Democrats? Is it the Republicans? Is it Donald Trump? Who's being blamed?
I think with the TSA, they kind of blame equally both parties. I think they really want their government to work for them. I do think Republicans have to address affordability. President Trump came in on affordability, and so, but right now I think with the TSA long lines, they want to.
Okay, so Representative Hoskins over there looking at me sideways like this. All right, so do weigh in.
I would disagree. I would think that the president and the Republicans are in control at the federal level, and I think that the president has a very interesting knack for sucking the oxygen out of a room, and I think because of that, the blame, people see him as the person who was in charge, and thus the reason for a lot of their issues.
And Mark, I know you're very kumbaya about all this stuff, but how do you see this?
Who are being the party of opposition and offer an opportunity for the?
Are you an independent?
I very much have always been in the middle of the road. The reality is I'm watching both sides argue this out, and it drives me absolutely out of my mind. Yes, some of the things that are happening are control of the Republicans. The president needs to do something about it, but the Democrats cannot continue to add to the conversation by just the blame game. They've got to try to figure out how do they come out as being, we've got something better to offer as opposed to vote for us because you shouldn't like the other guy.
Yeah.
You got to quit that.
And you're smiling.
I actually would agree with what Mark has to say.
Yeah. Well, one of the things that the Michigan Political Leadership Program, which I don't know when you start accepting applications, you select 24 people.
We have applications open right now. We select it for the next class in the end of September. So you got to have your application.
So they can start putting it in now.
Yes.
It is a great weekend program. Once a month you go somewhere,
Yes.
and is it online or is it something?
Yes, it's online. You can go to the Institute for Social Policy and Public Research at Michigan State University and just Google MPLP.
And I know you were talking about that too, the MPLP. Glad you did. Did it help you, propel you along?
Absolutely. I mean, learned a great amount of skills and met a lot of great people, and that's really helped me out through my career.
Well, and there's so much combat. I mean, Lansing's one environment. Washing is another environment here, too. So same thing with Mark. You did this when you were making the transition?
I was a lieutenant at the Sheriff's Department, had no interest in getting into politics.
And why did you do that?
It's
and
not
now
just people
look at
that want to get into it's not just about people wanting to get into politics.
Yeah.
People that just want to have an understanding of people that are in politics. And so I went to the program to learn more about it. And I tell you, I took away was basically just that. There are those on the right, there are those on the left, but the reality is the solutions are going to come from the middle. So,
but you have run as a Democrat.
I have. I think that was my...
Have you thought about changing your affiliation? Because you really sound like an independent.
You know what? I've never really... I wish it was more of a nonpartisan, position to begin with, because I feel that's how I've approached things. Some of my best friends are people that are Republicans, and I work well with them. Candace Miller, Tony Forleo.
There we go.
He's running for office, and I got to sit there and try to figure out how to deal with that on the Democratic side.
Well, before we wind things down here, I want to weigh in with my Keynes commentary this week. As regular viewers of this show know, I spend a fair amount of time each year in Scottsdale, Arizona. Not as much as I'd like, particularly during our cold months, but a decent amount. To that end, I wasn't surprised when the state legislature there recently passed a resolution to attempt to rename a major freeway after the late Charlie Kirk. That's just how the political winds blow out there, and Exhibit A on why we currently are in a divided country. I pulled out of our complex in North Scottsdale recently to see a phalanx of Scottsdale police officers and cars and hundreds of people on the streets. I had no idea what was going on until I read signs people were holding up and realized it was a No Kings rally, one of thousands taking place across the country. I was stunned. I've been traveling to the Valley for more than 20 years in a North Scottsdale, not even urban Phoenix, but Tony upscale Scottsdale, where I bet Donald Trump won that city 3 times. But hundreds of people showed up in the streets there in opposition to certain things taking place in the country. And that ought to tell Republicans and Democrats something. What they take from that is on them, but it's a message that neither one of them should ignore. And real quickly, Tanya, last word here. Do you think, are we going to see more No Kings rallies on the heels of Donald Trump and everything else that happened this week?
I think people are really frustrated with a number of issues, so I would venture to say yes.
Yeah.
I would agree.
Most likely.
You guys, we're ending this on positive. Everybody's in agreement here. Kumbaya moment here. Write it down here. Thank you so much for being here. Thanks you at home for tuning in. Enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you next Sunday for a little bit more Michigan Matters.